Kevin Behar asks, hey, Beyond Crew, Sony currently has 12 first-party studios under their belt, and only 5 have natively released a game, while Studio Japan and Sony Santa Monica have taken on more of publishing roles with Bloodborne and The Order 1886. Sony also has deep relationships with various studios outside of their first-party stable, i.e. Housemarque, Quantic Dream. This begs the multi-million-dollar question, what the hell are all of these other studios up to? Some studios have multiple teams, i.e. Naughty Dog, Guerrilla Games, Media Molecule. Which studios will be showing off their games at E3, and which studios will be showing their games at Paris Games Week? Which studios are you anxiously awaiting a reveal for? Fingers crossed for Guerrilla Games Project Horizon to be at E3. Thanks, and keep up the great work. Beyond. Also, Andrew Goldfarb sucks.
Oh, it doesn't say that. I have the paper, Brian.
I added that.
They're all making The Last Guardian.
Right, exactly. It's a group effort. Well, I mean, I think it's really interesting. Yeah, I think it's really interesting.
How many soldiers need to fall into that hole from 300? Everyone's making The Last Guardian. Come on.
I love that image. It's just developers piling.
It's like lemmings, but like each one's like holding.
See, at least I'll make a reference to that dumb movie.
I think it's interesting because I think the first-party studios, everyone feels like they're so shrouded in secrecy, and it's like, what are they doing? Are they just hanging out? But at the same time, like, we do know Guerrilla has a project, and we do know Media Molecule has a project. Like, so it's not like, like they do have something happening.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, obviously they're all working on something. Sony Bend is working on something. Quantic Dream is working on something. But
but Quantic Dream isn't owned. Like, Quantic Dream is
sure. Yeah.
I mean, and that's what's interesting, right? Is like there are clearly like a trillion PS4 projects in the works, and plenty of these first-party studios have cool stuff happening, maybe even beta stuff. But like, I think that like Media Molecule was on stage with the tech demo, and they were like, "Yeah, this will be part of our PS4 project." And Guerrilla, like, obviously there is like a very heavy-handed
dinosaur open world.
We've seen concept art for it, exactly. So it's like,
that sounds so awesome.
I mean, like, I don't know. We were talking about this last week a little bit. Like, I would rather that stuff stay like quiet, and then when they're ready to announce it, they announce it, rather than if they announce it this E3 and then it takes 4 years to come out, everyone freaks out.
But I understand people's frustrations, because when you look at first-party lineups, like the first-party Microsoft lineup is a lot better right now.
I know.
Just because we have, like, we know Forza 6 and Halo 5 and Gears of War and that Fable's.
Well, but it exists, like whether it's good or not.
But where you have, like, with Sony, you're just like, man, aside from Naughty Dog, like,
yeah, and the bigger problem is that they did that thing, I think it was at Gamescom 2 years ago, where they literally were like, oh, these studios are working on PS4 games, and they showed all their logos, and then we've seen like
later.
2 of those announced.
Yeah.
I mean, I
I
get
don't know.
that.
Supermassive isn't first party, right? The Until Dawn dudes.
No.
So we have Sony Bend. We don't know what they're doing. Everyone thinks Siphon Filter, but I don't know if that's a thing people care about anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I have no. I mean, God, Sony Bend has been working on something for a pretty long time, I would assume. Because like, was their last? Did they do anything after Golden Abyss?
I don't think so. No.
Crazy.
Yeah. And,
no.
I mean, Santa Monica obviously has, multiple projects.
Well, they said there's a God of War.
Yeah, and they're helping like they're helping Giant Sparrow with Edith Finch.
Yeah, the what is it? The X Dev.
The X Dev.
Yep.
But then we have like, you know, we assume Gran Turismo is being worked on by Polyphony.
Yeah, and they said as much to us years ago. They would at least do a PS4 version, if not something new.
I would be willing. I think that Media Molecule is working on something with Morpheus. I feel like that's a tight fit.
And that's the thing, right? I think that might be what the delay has been. I know
because originally it was like that thing was like very move centric. It was sort of like you were controlling like a puppet thing.
And apparently like Evolution had, I think it was Evolution. So there was like some kind of VR central dev unit within one of the studios. I don't know, man. I think Morpheus is actually a really interesting game changer. I think Morpheus could be what has been the holdup for all of these. Yeah. I would hope, just like we were talking about with Vita and some of the gimmicky things, I would hope that it's sort of like games that are coming out natively to PS4 with like enhancements if you get Morpheus, or like a Morpheus version or something. But like, I would hope that like we don't see these studios making Morpheus only games.
Yeah, you don't want to see them divide their install base.
There's that, and it's just that I'm personally just not. I'm never going to be a VR guy, and that's totally not me.
Thank you for saying that, by the way, because I'm right there with you.
I don't want to be closed-minded about it, and I will always try things, and maybe I'll change my mind. But it's like I have never. He
likes ice cream.
Let's talk after the show.
I have never worn glasses. And so when I go to a 3D movie, I have a point. I promise I'm coming around. Well, I've worn glasses, but I've never like had my own pair of glasses. Thank you for the offer there. You're back on my good list.
Thanks.
In case you're listening to this on your headphones, that was just awful.
When I go to a movie and wear 3D glasses, it's like super distracting to me, and I'm not immersed in it. And with VR, at least what I've experienced so far, like strapping that thing to my face, like no matter how incredible it is just for me personally, like very, very hard to feel immersed because I feel the weight of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I feel like it takes those sort of moments, those epiphanies. Like Max went over it, what was it, like 2 months ago or so.
Yeah.
He was talking about his Morpheus demo, I think from GDC,
Yep.
one where he was the dude who was like strapped to the. He was like
with the
getting
move
interrogated and
controllers.
everything.
That sounds awesome.
And
Yeah.
he, like his story was like that was the moment for him where he was like, oh my god, I get it now.
It like sold VR to
Yep.
him.
Yeah. And so I'm personally too, like I've had really cool tech demos, but I'm still waiting for that thing.
I agree with what Goldfarb's saying though, in that like if we are kind of in the middle of a drought-ish of first-party developed software on the PlayStation 4, then I wouldn't want them to split those hairs and start making Morpheus exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather be able to say like, oh, these guys are making this thing, I can play it on PS4, rather than it. But we're moving all of our studios to these like headset games. Like,
Well, we've also just
I'm
seen this
less
so many
interested in that.
times. Like every dev does this. It's like your console is doing well. Like or every publisher rather, like let's keep on that train.
Yep.
I think Sony's
Yep.
smart enough to do that, but it's like don't do the Kinect and the Move and all that thing where there's suddenly another peripheral and you have to. It's another barrier to entry where you have to buy this other thing to make it work. Like I think Sony at this point, by how they've made every correct move so far this generation, I think they get it. And
Yeah.
I would think that they've learned their lesson from past stuff, and they're just gonna say, hey, like this is our rad new PS4 game. This is the new Gran Turismo, but if you have Morpheus, it's even cooler, and you can do
I
X,
think
Y,
No
Z.
Man's Sky's gonna be the same thing.
But
Yeah, totally.
all that said, I think to make this thing run, you are going to have at least one exclusive killer.
It needs a killer.
I
sure,
think you need something that only works with this.
Yeah.
That is compelling and says to you. And by the way, and even and it may be the pack-in. I mean, this may be you're going to need a Super Mario Brothers for this thing, whether you pack it in or sell it.
Yeah,
separately.
That's
I
a
mean,
fair point. It
the-
works both ways. Yeah, you can't put it out to die.
The
You can-
Kinect, the Kinect comparison's a good one, and not in that we're calling this like a broken gimmicky peripheral, because all
No, 'cause
signs
it looks
show that it's
amazing.
not.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
but Microsoft specifically called the Kinect. They treated the Kinect like it was a console launch in the middle of last generation. They said we are coming out with this new peripheral, but we were treating it like it's brand new hardware, and we're having a midnight launch for it and everything. We're treating this like it's a brand new console, basically. So that's something Sony's going to have to do, and you guys are right. It's going to have exclusive games for it.
What Sony could do that Microsoft never did with Kinect is actually give me a reason to buy the thing besides what looked like mostly Wii knockoffs. I mean, the Kinect's full potential was never explored. VR, there are things you can do with a VR game that you cannot do any other way.
Well, I
And
think
if they can give me that.
I think that the target audiences that VR are reaching for are inherently much older than anything that the Wii remote or the Kinect ever did. Because the last thing you want to do is take a 7-year-old kid and put a helmet on him.
I mean,
or maybe you do if he's
$500
annoying.
helmet.
I mean, but also VR is so much bigger than video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, VR is going to be putting yourself at sporting events, putting yourself at concerts, putting it on, and all of a sudden it's a live feed of a cafe in Rio.
And even
You're
it's
sitting in a gorgeous corner on a sun-baked day.
That's
and
what the Google
that's
I/O
what
thing
you're
they
having.
just
Yeah.
showed, like the adventure thing.
Googlio.
Yeah, Googlio. It's also that. It's also that.
I love that. I shouldn't have laughed at that.
It's even as simple as like I can be in my apartment watching a movie, and instead of watching it on my 32-inch TV or whatever, I'm suddenly feeling like I'm in a movie theater, and it like looks as though it's like.
I can commit a home invasion. You won't even know it.
Oh, I can't wait.
But
That's going to be my favorite thing.
I'm so glad you said that, though, Marty, because I mean there is a reason that Facebook bought Oculus, and it's kind of gone quiet after that. Like, oh well, what are they up to now? But you know, if you go back to your William Gibson and stuff, this really does have the potential to be like a world changer.
Yeah.
And we're not thinking of that in that terms because we're thinking video games, but. Oculus or Morpheus or one of these really could change the way we interact with each other.
Well, and that's what everyone talks about. Video games are an input and feedback loop, right? And so like the input has generally been, you're holding a controller in your hands, or occasionally it's you are the controller with Kinect, like, or whatever. They try motion, try touch, whatever. But the feedback is the thing that has largely remained. I am looking at a screen and there's a digital character on it, and I know that limit. I know that there's like that glass wall between us. Theoretically, like VR is the end goal of it is for that feedback to be as realistic as the conversation we're having right now.
Yeah.
So it's like it is as though there's someone right in front of me, and I'm so immersed that I look to my right and I don't see my like living room wall. I see like an empty field next to me, and I see like I left this house and I turn back around and I can see that house behind me. Like I think like there's potential for
There is
that.
something so tragic about all of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Just
completely
something
agree.
really dark and really scary and
Yeah.
dystopian about all that. And I think it's
Totally.
amazing. I think it's wonderful that I can go see. I can go to like my niece's birthday party from across the country, even if she hasn't been alive for 10 years or wherever they're going with this. No,
he's actually talking about something that could happen.
I'm world building the tragic escapism that will come with these things, and there's something really dark about all this, and I think it's fantastic. But I also think that like you kind of there's no way to say this the right way, but I think that like I feel like there needs to be a certain level of acceptable psychological evaluation before you're really allowed to immerse yourself into one of these things.
And think about it
full time.
Think about 600 hours in The Witcher or whatever, as it is right now, just with a controller in your TV. Imagine trying to get out of that world if you're that obsessed with it, and if it's all encompassing.
Like it's gonna be one of those things where it breaks reality for you.
I feel like we just sound like old men right now, though.
No, I mean
This is important. I mean, we're already increasingly. There's fewer and fewer reasons to even leave our houses. If we don't have a job that demands we come in, or something in manufacturing, or we have to interact directly, we can do our shopping this way. We can have our food delivered to us. We can, blah blah blah. And yes, it sounds like old man great, but the fact is, we might be forgetting about something so core and genetic that we're losing touch with.
And I feel like
what
you could put somebody in front of the most beautiful, real thing in the world right now, and they will rather look at their phones, and that's already like this tiny screen that we carry everywhere that is escapism for us. And losing touch with even the basic realities of going out and talking to people, or meeting people, or visiting places, or having a human interaction in some capacity.
I'm sorry, Marty. Go ahead. It can make us conservative. It can make us narcissistic. It can make us self-absorbed. It can make us forget that we're a part of a larger whole that have to watch out for each other. I mean, I think that can be a danger where we become so absorbed.
It's scary too. Yeah. Like I went to the Virgin Islands like a month ago, 2 months ago, and like I just deleted work email from my phone, didn't look at anything, literally like deleted Facebook, deleted Twitter, just only had my phone on me like in case I got lost and needed maps or whatever. And like having that break was like I haven't done that in my adult life, and it was incredible.
So we were talking about this morning.
Yeah,
how you were
I just did this too.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So I just came back from a 2-week honeymoon in Europe, and Speaking of Italy, I went to
France.
I went to a bunch of places.
You took a train over to Italy, didn't you?
I did. Yeah. I did. So I can actually speak of Italy. But I went on my honeymoon, which is great. Like you find someone that you really care about, and you go on adventures, and that's awesome. And it's very different than a lot of what I think that the thing is I travel a lot for this job, but it's not traveling in that capacity, like you just said, of shutting off your work email and just sort of exploring a real world. Like there's a lot of people that want video games to be more realistic, but they've never really left their town. And I don't think you really have the capacity to talk about how you want things to be more real when you haven't seen enough of reality. So I mean, I went to Europe, and I went to Barcelona, and I went to Paris, and I went to Nice and Versailles, and I took a train to Italy, and I had a pizza, like a cartoon Italian. And I said, boppity boopity.
You shook your rolling pin.
Yeah.
Then you went and played some Mario Strikers.
I had flour all over my mustache, and I got back on the train. And it's great. And I came back, and I was like, man, time to catch up on all the media I missed. So like I went to go buy tickets for Mad Max, and I'll go see it this week. And then I'm like, I better play The Witcher, and I better play Splatoon and all this other stuff. And I went to play The Witcher, and I got about 25 minutes in before I was kind of like, this is really boring me right now. And I started thinking about why. And I'm like, why would one of the highest rated games of the year, this immersive, gigantic, incredible open world with bustling characters and beauty everywhere, be boring to me? And I think it's because like I just kind of did that in real life. Like
saw like real beauty.
Like I went to a small town in Italy that I've never heard of before, and I had no map, and I walked up a mountain, and there was a little town there with 100 people living in it, and there was a cathedral that was like 2,000 years old, and I walked into it, and it was terrifying.
And it was just
and I'm the only person in there, and they had this statue of dead Jesus laying there, and no one told me like it's safe. Come on in. It was just like one of the most video game things I've ever done.
So you saw that and then just went and got pizza in that same city.
I saw that, and I got pizza, and then I had a beer, and I had some Nutella ice cream, and I got out of there. And it felt like I did a bunch of weird side quests in a strange NPC village that I didn't know anyone, and I had strange interactions with people, and I bought stuff with money I didn't understand, then I left. And it was one of the most video game things I've ever done. And then I'm kind of like, you know what? Like it's hard to jump back into a game like that, or jump back into a world like that when, for the first time in a long time, it's my first vacation in like 10 years. This is not me preaching to you, vacation more. But like it was nice to go do something like that, and it made me come back and want to have kind of more similar experiences like that. And I had a hard time connecting with the video game world because I think there's still so much out there to see myself. And it's like, again, it's hard to say that on a video game podcast, but that's kind of where my head is at right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think one of the reasons I didn't something like GTA 5 didn't connect with me.
Yeah.
Like I understood it's an amazing achievement. I totally get why everyone adores it, but sort of the exploring a city part, I'm like, well, I do that literally every day.
Every day.
I
Except
wander
with
around,
alcohol.
Yeah, except with alcohol. I wander around an amazing city every day, and every time I travel,
And NPCs yell random crazy things
yeah, I
at you.
live on like in the worst neighborhood. Of like,
you live in the GTA of San Francisco.
I do.
Where you walk down the street and someone's like, "Hey, baby," and then a car hits somebody. It's very GTA.
But every time I travel to LA or New York, Chicago for work, I just wander around those cities and experience them. And I understand when I played the hell out of GTA 4, and I think that's because at the time I was I was a college kid in Milwaukee, and I wasn't traveling and I wasn't exploring the city, and so that escapism, I did that escapism through the game. Whereas the escapism I look for in games now are something very different. It's not like I don't want to go somewhere that I could literally go by opening my front door and walking. down the street.
That's exactly it. Like to me, escapism and realism are very different things for me. Like I don't want to really escape into the most brilliantly beautiful, realistic world where you can run your fingers through the blades of grass. Because I should be doing that myself. I mean, I look like the type of dude that would get arrested for running his fingers through the blades of grass. But still,
But like the EPA,
no, I mean, I should be like, I mean, if I was in a park and I started running, the cops would show up. But I should be out and experiencing stuff. And when I play a video game and I escape, I want to go to a weird, crazy, different alien world that I can't go to. I want to visit a distant planet. I want to go try something artistically experimentational that's different than anything I've ever done.
Oh, I think as we get older, once we're past childhood, we don't learn all that much new. I mean, we learn facts. We learn.
I think
things
your brain caps at a certain point.
Yeah, and so a lot of
I'm Republican forever now.
Well, that was one. But a lot of the
Where's my gun?
A lot of the learning we do later in life is relearning things or remembering things that we already knew and having them brought back into contrast. Death has that effect on us. Love has that effect on us. I think that some of the best video game escapism and the things that still do resonate for me are the games that take me to maybe a very different kind of place and then remind me at the end or in the course of it of something about the real life that I live in that I've forgotten, and that's what makes it powerful or poignant. I think about you think about the end of do you ever read the Winnie the Pooh books?
Yeah.
The A.A. Milne.
Those are dark books.
Oh yeah, you get to the end and Christopher
Spoilers for
Robin's
Winnie the Pooh.
it's I have to go away now and I can never come back.
Yeah.
And Pooh Bear's I don't understand. And Christopher Robin has to leave him, and Pooh never understands why Christopher Robin has to go or why he can't
Harry
come
and the
back.
Hendersons.
Is that? It's exactly.
It's pure fantasy, but it shows you something that you've almost managed to forget about life.
Is it to teach children about death? Do you think?
It's
No,
to teach
it's to
children
teach-
about growing up.
It's to teach children that if an adult man has constant dreams about a bear being friends with a tiger, he's crazy.
And
That's what
having
it's
robbed
teaching you.
everything of its beauty.
And that has to die when you grow up because you
it's-
can't carry that with you in any sociable, acceptable environment. For the rest of your life.
Winnie the Pooh analogies aside, no, he had to grow up. That's why he had to leave and couldn't come back. And Pooh couldn't understand.
Yeah.
But it's a fantasy story that reminds us of something poignant about life. Video games can do that, and that's when they're beautiful. But again, it's
I
get
love
away
where
from
the show goes.
Yeah,
sometimes.
what a weird little segment this was.
It's a great segment. I'm
Beyond.
so happy about it.
Yeah.
Beyond.
There's your Roper report.